Hello and welcome to another episode of the Adventure Games podcast. This is Seoirse and I hope everyone is well. Now, for this episode, I had the delightful pleasure to speak to Charlotte Sutherland, the CEO of Cave Monsters and the developer of Lord Winklebottom Investigates, a 1920s murder mystery set on an island. And you also play as a giraffe with a monocle. So what's not to like? So I spoke to Charlotte all about her game, as she spoke about her inspirations. She spoke about the development of the game, what we can expect with some of the characters, and how she drew those beautiful drawings and illustrations for the game, and much more as well. And of course, no spoilers. So don't worry if you haven't played the game. There will be no spoilers. It is out on July 28th, 2022, so not long now. And yeah, so without further ado, here is a trailer for the game, Lord Winklebottom Investigates, followed by my interview with Charlotte. So please enjoy.
Oh my God, he's dead! The master's dead!
This is a case for me, Lord Winklebottom, the great detective. A giraffe detective, that is. Journey to a mysterious island and investigate a grisly murder.
We shall have to get him out of there if I'm to do an autopsy. Can't very well determine the cause of death just by gulping him through the glass, you know.
Interrogate a cast of unusual suspects. Search for clues and solve fiendish puzzles.
Are you sure you know what you're doing? The guilt-free estate will not be held liable for any damage or injury caused by incorrect operation of that device.
My word, this plant really does look frightfully tasty.
So I'm delighted to be joined by the CEO of Cave Monsters, Charlotte Sutherland. We will be discussing her upcoming adventure game, Lord Winklebottom Investigates. So hello, Charlotte. How are you?
I'm good, thanks very much. Yeah, thanks very much for having me. And yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thanks. Thank you for agreeing to talk to me, because we spoke as we were speaking before. We spoke pre-COVID, as I like to say, call things now, pre-COVID and then during COVID. Yeah. But no, your game, Lord Winklebottom Investigates, is about to be released on July 28, 2022. And a lot of people are really looking forward to this. So I'm really looking forward to talking about this and hearing more about it. But yeah, we'll be chatting more with you. And if anybody who's watching live, if you have any questions for Charlotte, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll be happy to ask them. So well, first of all, Charlotte, I'll just ask you a question, bit of a personal question, but related to the game, I promise you. How do you make a cup of tea? What is your best way to make a cup of tea?
I would make it with tea first and then milk.
Okay, that's how I do it. But yeah, I did that in the game because I got you're very kind of send me an early access version of the game. I did that, and Sight, one of the main characters, Dr. Frumple, he wasn't happy.
I think he's not happy. Whatever you do.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
So there's there.
Yeah, because I made the tea. You know how I make it is with tea first. The tea bag, boil a kettle, and then pour the water in, and then pour the milk in. People from outside UK and Ireland probably think we're weird for having tea with milk, but that's the way we drink it. But okay, so it wasn't that I did anything wrong in the game.
No, they did nothing wrong at all. Yeah, I just tried to give it a bit of a controversy there.
Yeah, I was thinking, ooh, how are British and Irish people? Well, actually, my partner, she started to make tea with milk first, and I was like, what? Now, tea still tasted nice. She says that it tastes better for her this way, but I don't know, old habits die hard. But yeah, you haven't melted because I believe the UK is going through a heat wave.
Yeah, it was particularly horrible yesterday because it was like 40 degrees here. So yesterday, yeah, it was it was basically just covering all the windows, sort of putting some fans on and trying to look after my dogs and make sure she was okay, because yeah, she definitely wasn't enjoying it.
Yeah, no, I can imagine it must be quite tough to
yeah, it's not very nice.
because we're not used to it. I know there's people probably in other parts of the world, Australia, and I saw someone from Texas saying that they had air conditioning. We don't.
No, it's not. It's not built for it here, are they? They're just filled with ventilation. So yeah, it's just.
Yeah, no, but I'm happy to see that you haven't melted and your dog is okay. We'll be talking a lot about animals, I'm sure, during the.
Yeah, she might bark at some point, but I can always.
Oh, look, there! I'm sure she's the boss. I'm sure of the house. And we will be talking about animals because in your game, Lord Winklebottom Investigates, you play as a giraffe. Wears a monocle. So, but I suppose before we get, probably asked you this in the first interview, but I'll ask you this again. Could you let us know what some of your favorite adventure games are? And yeah, first of all, what are your favorite adventure games or narrative games growing up, if you had any?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say sort of growing up, my favorite adventure games. I'd still say sort of my favorite overall is Grim Fandango. It's because I love the style of it and sort of the theming, and sort of also the slightly dark aspects of it as well. I do love sort of LucasArts adventures though as well, and just the story really that sort of drew me in, as well as the art style. And yeah, I really do love that. And actually, sort of, me and my husband, we had I actually made like a Grim Fandango cake topper for my for the wedding cake.
Oh wow!
So yeah, I got some photos of that online. So I've still got the cake topper because I just made it out of clay. So we've got that one sort of pride of display downstairs.
Oh wow! And is your husband does he like to play adventure games as well?
Yeah, sort of like we tend to sort of play them on like the PC downstairs so that we can just kind of play them together and stuff.
Oh, lovely! Yeah, no, that's great. And so, how do you play together then? Do you take turns playing, or how do you?
Well, usually we've just got like a wireless keyboard with like a trackpad on it. So usually, just one of us has the keyboard, and then just kind of both make the decisions that what to do. And stuff.
Right, yeah. Have you played any Telltale games or any choice-based games together?
Yeah, sort of, because I really like the Telltale Walking Dead.
Yes.
So I played all of those, and I know I've not had a massive amount of time for playing games recently because of finishing up everything, but we got hold of The Quarry, and
yes, I bought that myself.
I've finished it now, but yeah, really enjoyed that. So I'd like to play it again at some point. Just try out a few different options.
And so again, that's a choice-based game. You have to, I think, choose from what I've seen. And
because I played like all of their previous ones, like the Dark Pictures anthology and Until Dawn, and just really enjoyed those. They sometimes feel more like watching a film, really.
Right.
I know it's choice based though, sort of based on sort of who gets killed and who doesn't. And I do quite like horror and stuff as well. So, but they're at a bit of a slower pace than sort of first person stuff. I've never really been into like first person stuff because I get a bit more motion sick generally. So those kind of games like I find sort of really good though to play.
Yeah, no, cool. Well, I hope to play The Quarry soon. I might try and play it with my partner, see if she can.
We're just sort of like taking turns deciding who's going to do what.
Yeah, no, that sounds really cool actually. But no, I got that myself, and but yeah, no, well, your game, Lord Winklebottom Investigates, is, from what I understand, at least, quite different to The Quarry. I think from the little bit that I started playing as well. But yeah, before we start talking about your game, I wanted to ask you, when did you decide you wanted to make adventure games, and when did you create a studio?
I'm trying to remember back to when it was now, because it was a while ago now. I mean, it's 2018 was when I started to actually like develop sort of the concept behind like Lord Winklebottom, and I decided I didn't really want to work in AAA anymore because I used to work at like large companies, and I was at Zumo Digital as the last company that I was working at. So I was doing things like Little Big Planet 3, and it was Sonic and All Stars Racing Transformed and the Doctor Who Adventure Games. And to be honest, like working on the Doctor Who Adventure Games, I enjoyed that more because it was a smaller team and it felt like you had a bit more control and stuff. And I just like the sort of the dynamic of it really, and working on the adventure games. And I kind of wanted to do my own games really, and sort of just have a bit more sort of free time for myself as well. And so I decided to sort of leave and go into teaching so that I could do that part-time. But it all kind of tied in around the time when I just wanted to get back into digital painting and stuff really, because I hadn't done sort of painting in years sort of prior to that, because I've been working as an animator, and I just wanted to try sort of like digital painting again after I got a tablet, and was just kind of inspired after like going to the zoo and just by some of the stuff as well that we were watching at the time. So watching sort of Agatha Christie's and sort of Paul Temples and Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that on TV, and reading them and stuff. So I just kind of got in the habit of like painting, but trying to make them sort of look a bit like the animals look a bit fancy, like they fit in that sort of world. And then it was just after doing the first 3 of those, so I did like Winklebottom, Dr. Frumple, and then Admiral Gilfrey, the axolotl. And I just thought they sort of lend themselves to an adventure game, and I kind of decided, so it would have been around 2018 at some point, sort of when I thought I'd actually kind of start making it as a game. But I sort of left Zumo a little bit before then, sort of just because I wanted to try sort of new things.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, I really like it when people, that I've spoken to developers as well who go, okay, yeah, we're just going to make our own adventure game. We're just going to get back into it, and we want to do our own thing, make the game that we want to make.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. We want to hear from you. So
I kind of wanted to make something that I wanted to play myself. So I was just then hoping that other people would like it too. So it's just kind of taking bits of stuff that I liked and kind of putting it all together and making the game that I'd like to play.
I'm confident from what I've played. I'm confident that it will be good and people will like it. But I guess for anyone who doesn't know much about it, or a refresher, maybe could you let us know what will tell us a little bit about the setting of Lord Winklebottom Investigates. Don't worry, that's no, don't worry. I think as I said, this game features animals. Yeah. So kind of appropriate that we hear an animal.
Sorry, what was the question again? I got me distracted.
No worries, or maybe your dog could answer. I think she did answer. What can you tell us about the setting of Lord Winklebottom Investigates? So
it's set in like an alternate 1920s, where like the world is populated by animals entirely, and I've tried to go for very much a kind of classic sort of kind of British, a bit over the top sort of stereotype kind of theme to it as well. So if you are used to stuff like some Sherlock Holmes and Agatha Christie's and also sort of Paul Temple sort of serials and stuff like that, I've tried to kind of get some of those sort of sensibilities into it and stuff, and some of those sort of tropes and stuff that happen. So I've tried to kind of gel those two worlds together, really, sort of anthropomorphic animals, and then also sort of the kind of murder mystery, sort of classical British style mystery stuff.
Yeah, well, so far I think that is coming through in the game. It is a murder mystery, but you do play as a giraffe, and then I mean, it does feel like a proper Agatha Christie murder mystery with Sherlock Holmes, but with animals. And I love how the animals, they still have some of the the traits of being animals. For example, the giraffe Lord Winklebottom, very early on, he eats a leaf.
Yeah, I tried to kind of like keep some of the sort of the animal sort of traits in there and stuff, and just kind of make them quite prim and proper, like an old-fashioned style character, but also sort of like they've still got their nature. So yeah, it's going to bring out the animal sort of nature in certain areas and stuff.
Well, absolutely. I think it's we can see that. Now, I think I can maybe guess the answer, but why did you choose to have? Because why did you choose to have a giraffe as the main character? Because we've had plenty of animal adventure games, animal detective adventure games, with more coming out. But I think your game is the only one where you play as a giraffe. Now I might be wrong, but so why did you choose a giraffe as the main character? What appealed to you about a giraffe?
Well, when I did the initial sort of painting, I made him look quite snooty and stuff, and I kind of like the idea of him like looking down on people because I think they look quite graceful as well, but also like they are quite snooty when they're staring down at you. And it's kind of a bit hard to describe in a way, but I just felt like he was sort of the main character really, because he's quite sort of absurd looking. I think giraffes are generally sort of quite absurd looking. They don't look real, and I think I thought like just the sort of combination of a giraffe wearing a suit and tie and sort of top hat sort of looks the most absurd out of all the characters in a way. So I thought he would lend himself well to being sort of the main character for that.
Yeah, I was quite impressed that the giraffe and a hippo fit on a boat and then they fit in a house.
Yeah.
But you know, when I was playing the game, I never questioned it. I never thought, oh, giraffe can't fit in the house. No, I was like really into the story. I was like, oh, I want to know what happens. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the other characters or what kind of other animals we meet in the game? Again, without spoiling anything, but what other animals can we expect?
I don't know to begin really, because I know that like most people that have seen the trailer would know about the screaming goat. She's the maid, who's played by Sally Beaumont. Who does the voice for that and does a really, really great job. So there's sort of your kind of classic kind of slightly Cockney kind of maid that you get from those style era films. There's not many staff kind of related, sort of like that living in the area and stuff. But I have a sloth as the butler. He's one of the main characters. Not too sure how many to give away really.
Yeah, maybe we can, if you wanted to keep secret a few, but
yeah, sort of the axolotl, sort of the murder victim. He was actually married to a duck, which I know is kind of slightly sort of different. And so there's a duck daughter that's there. I tried to go for that sort of slightly Muppet style thing where like Mrs. Piggy, Miss Piggy and Kermit and stuff, and then like how the babies work and stuff. So I've tried to just kind of like I just made the daughter a duck, she's engaged to a cat. It's just kind of like a bit of a weird mix of different characters really. There's also like an old dame style character, like an old dame who was on the stage, and that's that character, that's a pelican that's played by Sally Beaumont as well. So I've got a few different I'm just trying to think sort of I don't know how far to go into it really with regards to characters. I try to be quite
think that's we've spoken about a few from who I've met as well. And again, I when I was playing it, I never questioned it. I said, yeah, of course, an axolotl will be married to a duck. Yeah, of course, why not? Because in this world, it seems like, yeah, sure, this can happen.
I try to make it sort of quite diverse with the characters.
Yeah, and I think they are, that they're, I don't know if you would call it interracial marriages or interspecies.
Interspecies.
Yeah. There's no speciesism here, which is but yeah, one of the things that I liked about I think I've played it for 20 minutes, half an hour, that I really like as well, because I guess I was expecting, like a real comedy, and it is very funny, but it's also kind of serious. Like the story itself is serious. Like there's a real, well, we don't know if it's murder yet, but the characters kind of like take themselves seriously. So again, how did you go about with the balance of humor with comedy and I guess seriousness in the story? Was that a challenge at all?
I didn't. I sort of didn't want to kind of rely on too many puns and stuff. I didn't want it to kind of feel like it was sort of like, it's a bit wacky, I know, but I didn't want it. I kind of wanted some of the humour to be a bit more subtle or a bit more deadpan at times, because I quite like sort of black comedies and stuff like that, and just general sort of deadpan humour and stuff. So I was trying to make it sort of a bit more of a subdued sort of humour. So it's not kind of like joke after joke after joke throughout. So some of it is coming more from like the situations that they're kind of in, rather than
right
sort of jokes that, you know, they're potentially saying. I know Frumple sort of does a few jokes throughout, which then, like, you know, aren't necessarily that funny, but it's like they kind of like the attention's drawn to the fact that they're not that funny.
And he has to explain.
Yeah. So I tried to just think of it in terms of the story and kind of what would suit best, really, rather than making it sort of like pun based or anything like that. So trying to kind of keep it a bit more sort of situation based and a bit deadpan at times.
Yeah, for me, Dr. Frumple is probably the character I can most relate with. As anybody who listens to the podcast knows that, you know, telling jokes that aren't funny, then having to explain them. Yeah, that's kind of my forte. That's my strength. That's my superpower. So, and I think, I'm not sure if we're supposed to laugh at the terrible jokes that Dr. Frumple tells, but I do laugh. I do find it funny. Then when you try to explain it, it makes it even funnier. But yeah, and I was mentioning as well, I love the interaction between the two characters, Lord Winklebottom and Dr. Frumple, that they kind of seem very chill, that nothing will really, they never seem like they will react very strongly to anything, but yet they're not monotonous, but they're kind of like, yeah, let's take everything in our stride as well. Was that intentional?
Yeah, I kind of wanted them to be kind of that sort of more of that stiff upper lip kind of style. Just like trying to kind of be very polite and proper sort of the whole way through. So they don't, like, the only one that really sort of occasionally gets a bit riled is Frumple, sort of because he's generally a bit more sort of, you know, miserable at times and stuff, whereas sort of Winklebottom tries to rein him in. So I was just trying to get across that sort of that general sort of British sort of sense of like being polite no matter what the situation is and stuff, and trying to kind of keep stuff calm in that way. So.
Well, it certainly it certainly seems to be like that from what I've played, but I will let you know the more I play it. But we mentioned with the voice acting, we mentioned Sally Bowman, who there's a very nice scream.
Yeah.
But also there's a scream in like it was a Cockney accent. That is a particular type of accented scream, which is very impressive. Did you know Sally before you started making this game, or how did you? Because you know, she's quite in demand. You know, she's the main voice actor in Old Skies and a number of other things. So how did you get her involved in this game?
I actually met her at Adventure X in 2018. So that was when I had the original demo, which was more like a kind of proof of concept, really. So that was the original demo that I had. That didn't really showcase anything like any puzzles that would be in the game sort of now. It was more just as a bit of a kind of taster of how it would be, because I've changed sort of like the Sea Dog character and stuff. So I've changed Salty Waters a bit and stuff. So but I actually met her there, and it didn't have the screaming goat stuff. Oh no, sorry, it did. No, but I think I'd just taken some. I'd sort of just tried to kind of mash up together to kind of put some stuff in there. But I wanted it done professionally, and she seemed very interested in kind of going for like the goat style character with the screaming and stuff. And I know she had like a big sort of body of work behind her, and I met a few other voice actors there as well. And kept in touch with everybody, and so I actually got a lot of like contacts from people, voice actors at different events. So yeah, her at Adventure X, and also met people at sort of other events after, like EGX and stuff. So I've got Sally Beaumont, there's Natalie Winter and Jay Britton and Dave Jones sort of doing voices, who've all done quite a few different voices sort of throughout, like, for a lot of adventure games, and they're quite varied, and they're playing a few characters each, and I don't feel like you can tell it's the same characters. They're really good at doing sort of characters and sort of like just alternating voices and stuff, and really bringing life to them. So yeah, it was really good sort of like meeting people and kind of seeing what they brought to life with the characters and stuff. It was really, really exciting doing the voice acting with them.
Yeah, I can imagine, you know, seeing characters who you've written for and then having them voiced by these really good voice actors. Must be a thrill to watch. And how did you go about directing them, or you know, giving them the lines? So was there much directing with them, or how did you go about it?
I sort of did it all over Zoom because I know sort of everybody has like a sort of remote studio. And obviously it was all happening sort of over the past year and stuff. So so it was one of the things where I'm sort of new to directing. So I don't know if I felt sort of much like a director in it. I was kind of trying to get across like the sort of the whole kind of personality of the characters. But I mean, a lot of the times I found myself laughing when I did the lines because I was finding it quite funny sort of hearing them sort of done in different. I know kind of like it was written sort of by me, but I think it's the actual character that they bring to it. They're just going to add a bit of life to it. So, so yeah, it was sort of, like I said, it was a bit hard to kind of like say about actually directing them. It just felt quite natural, sort of talking them through the characters, and obviously some of it's quite absurd and stuff, and a bit surreal. So just trying to explain some of the stuff that was going on. So, but yeah, it's quite difficult saying like your character's a pelican who's he's an old lovey type who sort of on the stage and stuff. So it was very new to me, sort of doing voice direction and stuff. So, but yeah, really enjoyed it though.
Yeah, well, it seemed from what I've played again, it seemed the voice acting has been excellent, and I'm sure it will be throughout the whole game, as I've spoken to everyone. And then, speaking of voice actors, the main character, Dr. Winklebottom, I believe he's close to you. He's someone you know well.
yeah. Lord Winklebottom and Dr. Frog.
And Dr. Who you just found out now, it's the same person, right?
Yeah, they're both played by James. He's my husband.
Was that the intention all along, or was he just supposed to be in the demo?
He was originally going to be sort of the demo, because obviously with the demo I was keeping it sort of as like low budget as possible because it was like self-funded, the original demo, and I took that sort of original demo to events, and I had like so much like good feedback on the actual voice acting. But it kind of then just stayed that way. So, because in the original demo, just for sort of pricing wise and stuff like that, and also sort of, I didn't want to kind of hire voice actors before getting all the script like finalised, because I didn't want to sort of have to kind of do recordings again and again and like changing the scripts and stuff. So I was trying to keep the demo sort of like to a certain budget, and so he ended up doing a few in the original demo, pretty much sort of all the sort of male characters in that. But yeah, so I just kind of kept him throughout as Wigglebottom and Frumple, because a lot of people seem to really like the voices. And yeah,
he's excellent, and I genuinely didn't know he also played Dr. Frumple.
Yeah,
but no, he was really. Is he a professional voice actor? Has he done it before? Is this his first time? No.
First time, no. He's actually a game programmer who works at Zumo Digital. So yeah, he's his first time doing voice acting.
Well, he got the main part. I mean, and I think it's there on merit. I don't think we could say it's nepotism, because I think he is really, really good. Just the delivery of the lines and the comedic lines, and then the more serious lines. I mean, mainly the comedic lines. I found myself laughing already quite a few times. So, and again, what was it like? Well, quote unquote, directing him. So, was it easier than over Zoom? Were you able to tell him, "No, James, I want to do it like this," or did he bring anything? Did he give any suggestions?
He sort of brought some of his own suggestions sort of with it too. I suppose I felt a bit more relaxed in a way, sort of telling him my ways to do it as well, because of obviously sort of knowing him well. So it's a bit more relaxed, It's quite entertaining, sort of listening to him recording the lines and stuff, because it's obviously trying a few different ways. But he did bring sort of like some of his own sort of ideas, the like delivery and stuff of the lines as well. So it was sort of really fun recording it. It just took quite a long time though, kind of going through all the lines, because obviously sort of they do have I think overall sort of in the entire game there's like when it came to cutting up sort of audio and stuff, it was over 2 hours worth of audio, I think.
Wow.
Together, sort of. So yeah, there's been quite a lot of time spent on sort of audio recording and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been sort of taking up quite a bit of time too.
I'm sure it's well worth it. And could you be more direct with him, since he's your husband? You know, could you say at any time, this is rubbish? I'm sure it wasn't rubbish, but you know, like, could you, would you recommend people, you know, working with your partner on a video game like this?
I suppose it depends on how close you are.
That is true. That is true. It depends on the relationship.
But so I don't remember thinking that any of them were like really rubbish or anything like that.
I'm sure it wasn't. That was just an example. You'd be more direct because
I kind of I would sort of like try and sort of make him try a few different goes with a few lines to kind of so it's hard to remember some of it because I didn't record it all or anything like that, so it's a bit hard to kind of remember, because I actually I did record some of the like the other voice actors so that I could kind of create clips from them later on. But with James, he didn't want to be recorded because he just wanted to just kind of do it that way. So it's, I mean, like if you've got sort of a partner that sort of likes to like to kind of give voice acting a go, like I definitely recommend sort of trying. You just need to make sure you've got like decent equipment and stuff. So that's sort of where like the Kickstarter helped, sort of, because originally, like for the original demo, it was sort of like I can't remember how much the microphone was. It was something like, I don't know if it was even £50 or something like the microphone. It was like, I think it might have been 20 or something. Like it was a cheap microphone that I had. So the Kickstarter allowed me to get like better equipment and kind of try and do a bit more sort of soundproofing and make it all a bit more sort of professional sounding as well, like in that sense. So.
Well, I, for one, am delighted that he did the voice acting, at least for Lord Winklebottom and Dr. Frumple, which, again, I'm still astonished that he did it because I genuinely didn't know. But and also, I think was it Tom Hardwick as well, when he did the demo, he got his wife to record a voice for Lucy. And then it turns out she was amazing and everyone loved her. So I think she's going to do the voice in the main. And I think he said that, he knew that she wasn't bad, but I think they were quite surprised at how much everyone loved the voice acting. So, but in this case, I am delighted that James is still the main voice actor. Yeah. And then I also wanted to ask you as well, that when I spoke with other developers like Goloso Games and there's other people making animal detective adventure games, I've been trying to get them to try and have an Animal Avengers kind of thing where they all come together. And again, don't want to maybe spoil, but Lord Winklebottom has appeared in at least one other video game. Is there? And again, is there any chance that maybe in the future, or that is there any chance at all that you might get some of these characters together in any games, or maybe even Lord Winklebottom? Again, if there's a spoiler, don't give it away because I haven't seen. Yeah,
I mean, you might be able to find a reference to sort of Inspector Waffles somewhere in the game. I don't know if you'd have found that yet, but there's there is sort of like a reference, because I know sort of in Inspector Waffles they have the Tail, if you remember Tail, which is like the Talented Animal Inspectors League.
Yes.
Sort of also has like chicken police in it as well, and so I know there's been like a few little like cameos and stuff there. So I tried to kind of add in a bit of a cameo.
Yes, well, Lord Winklebottom is part of Tale, so hopefully in the future.
So you might notice something somewhere with that sort of mentions about Inspector Waffles, but potentially.
Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye out. And so then with regards to the gameplay, Kieran in the chat says Animal Adventures, the mystery solving menagerie. Yes, so that's two of us who want this.
Yeah, I'd definitely be up for sort of doing like a game at some point with like the other ones all teaming up and stuff. I think it's just a case of it would be kind of making sure that everybody's all okay with it.
Yeah, I don't know how you get together and work together, but yeah, listen, I would be up for it at least. But yeah, then with regard to the gameplay of the game, how would you describe the game itself? Is it point and click or direct control, first person, third person? How would you describe it for?
I've tried to make it sort of more like classic point and click, not sort of scum based though, but dragging sort of, so you have an inventory at the bottom that if you hover down the bottom of the screen, it will pop up, and then you can just drag and drop and combine items in that way. I've tried to sort of streamline it a bit with regards to sort of movement, so there's not really like walking back and forth throughout the scenes. So I've tried to streamline it to so it sort of also saves a bit of time for the player, rather than like if you've forgotten something over one side of the screen, you don't need to have like a big walk animation to go back and forth and get something if you've forgotten it. So I've tried to sort of streamline it in that way. So in a way, I suppose a little bit more like the Dark Side Detective in the way that there's like more static sort of framing with regards to that. But I've also tried to get a bit of movement in. So there's a bit of movement with regards to like the camera, but less so with like character sort of walking animations and stuff like that. But I'd say it's general sort of like drag and drop sort of interface and also dragging and combining items sort of in the inventory.
Okay, and how would you describe the puzzles and the difficulty of puzzles? Would you say that they're because I know it's impossible to appeal to everyone. That no matter what developers do, they might be either too easy or too difficult, or I found the puzzles myself when I was playing. They're still challenging but logical. And I was like, oh, I have to think about this now. But how would you describe the difficulty of the puzzles and what kind of puzzles we can expect in Lord Winklebottom?
I've tried to keep them sort of in theming with the story, so rather than take you out of the world too much, so rather than having like a random puzzle that pops up or something that you've got to and I didn't want to do too many sort of puzzles where everything for that puzzle is all in the one room. I kind of wanted to spread stuff out across the house and the island and different elements that you'll need to potentially like solve puzzles. So with regards to the difficulty, it's one of the things where I do find it a bit hard to tell in a way, sort of like, because I mean, like feedback sort of I've had before, like some sort of people find some stuff kind of sort of that kind of like intermediate kind of level, and then other people have found that quite difficult. And I'm hoping that sort of generally people that are used to adventure games will sort of find it sort of that kind of not incredibly difficult, but also not easy as well. So I'm sort of trying to kind of get that middle ground. It's one of the things where it's hard to kind of gauge that though. So from playtesting, I've sort of tried to do a few tweaks in a few places, and ideally sort of do, if anything needed a little bit of extra signposting, I tried to add that in, but I didn't want to be explicit with hints or anything. So yeah, I don't know if that sort of really answered the question.
Yeah, no, I think it does. I didn't want to be too difficult or too easy that we just breeze through it.
I sort of wanted to make some stuff that you need to sort of think about, and also some puzzles that you might encounter sections that will be relevant later on, and then you can then go back to. So I didn't want to make it so that everything was just sort of like, there's one puzzle, let's do that and then move on to the next one. I kind of wanted it so some of the puzzles are a bit intermixed, so you might need to sort of open a different area up and get access to that, so that you can then get something from that area to then use somewhere else combined with something else. So there's like a few different the combinations sort of and different orders you can kind of sometimes walk to places in and potentially find different items that can be used later on. So it's rather than just kind of keeping everything for one puzzle stuck in the same area. There's a bit more sort of I suppose like timing, like thinking about sort of the kind of where you can go at certain times, and then kind of holding off on some puzzles till later. But you can sort of potentially sort of go back there, or kind of keep the items in your inventory until you need them.
Yeah, no, that, and I believe is Dr. Frumple kind of an in-game hint system that if you click on him,
I tried to make him sort of as a bit of a hint system, but not too explicit. So, so yeah, you can basically click on the little cup of tea that's at the top of the screen to bring up Frumple, and he'll pop up and just give you a bit of a sort of vague idea of what you should be looking at next, or what he thinks you should do, rather than sort of, yes, do this and do that and do that, and that's that puzzle solved. I kind of wanted more of a hint, so that it's not ideally sort of taking too much away from the game. Also, I didn't want something where players will then feel the need to just keep doing that to kind of get through. So I wanted players to still sort of think about what they need to do rather than relying on the hint system, because I know sometimes people do that where like they've got the hint system and then like they just click, oh yeah, I'll just keep going back to that.
Yeah, let's just keep clicking it.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to try and avoid that too much. So I tried to keep it a bit sort of subtler and sort of more vague hints. So ideally kind of point you in the right direction, or if you're getting stuck on one bit, sort of you can ask him and he might tell you that is something else you should potentially be looking at the time, rather than getting fixated and go, I need to do this, when actually sort of, there's something else that you should focus on at the time.
Yeah, there was one, believe it will be puzzle later on. I think you have to open a box or something, but that Lord Winklebottom said, oh, I don't believe I have all the information yet. And I was like, okay, because knowing me, I was being stuck and I would been staying on that, thinking, oh, I can open this, but I'm like, okay, no, now I know to keep going, to keep investigating the rest of the house.
Yeah. I'm trying to kind of add in bits like that,
which is helpful, I think,
sort of, so that people don't get fixated on one bit.
Right.
I need to do this before I can do anything else. But and I'm hoping that all works out. But if anyone does get like properly stuck at any point, I've not had anyone get majorly stuck anywhere sort of from playtesting though. But I've got like a hints, sort of like a section that's like a help section on the Discord server as well for the game.
Nice.
So people can always get in touch and then kind of ask stuff, and it can be kind of spoiler free and stuff, like, so we can always tag stuff as spoilers if people do need any more detailed.
I can see myself going on that Discord server. But so far I'm okay. So far I'm able to get through it. And speaking about the graphics and the way the game looks, it has a really nice distinctive style. And you mentioned as well that you went back to, I think, digital painting or digital drawing. Is that how you did the graphics for this game, or how do you describe the graphics? How did you come up with these drawings and with these graphics for the game?
Well, I kind of wanted to go for like the original drawings that I did. I wanted to go for like an oil paint style, like a classical portrait, so that you find like museums and stuff and everything. So I wanted to go for that oil paint style, and but rather than do it sort of actually with oil paints, because I had painted with oil paints in the past, like years ago, sort of like physically, but I actually got a like a Microsoft Surface, and I just kind of sort of treated myself to it really, and wanted to have a go with like drawing sort of like directly on the screen, because I feel like I don't have that much hand-eye coordination for using sort of a graphics tablet at the side. So I kind of got that so that I could just paint sort of directly on the screen. And I tried to sort of, I was just looking at different softwares and came across like Clip Studio Paint, and there's an oil brush sort of brush in there, and it really gives you like a very realistic sort of like oil brush style, and you can actually like mix the paint, sort of similar to like doing it in real life, when you're sort of blending paints rather than relying on like any blend tools and stuff. So I kind of wanted to try and keep it as realistic to painting as possible, sort of just so that I could get into the swing of things really, because it was like kind of the first time of doing sort of more digital painting like that. And I just kind of wanted to see if I could do that sort of old portrait style, but keep the oil paint sort of brushes and like the texture there. And I know like I don't think I've seen many other games that have used it before as well. So like I said, it didn't start off originally as being a game. It was just going to be sort of paintings that I was doing. And then I just thought like the style, I just really liked sort of the texture of it and sort of the overall sort of look. And I thought it looked quite old fashioned and a bit more storybook like. And so I thought like, what way could I kind of then transfer that into like for animation? Because I knew I wouldn't be able to do that as like a frame by frame sort of animation where I'd have to do that every single thing. And obviously because it takes quite a long time to paint the portraits and the characters. So it was taking a few hours each because of just kind of getting all the stuff in there rather than doing it as you would like frame by frame. So I basically sort of did the portraits, sort of sliced them up into sections sort of with layers and stuff in Clip Studio, and then was able to rig that using Spine animation software, which is more like sort of rigging for 3D animation, which I was a bit more used to as well, after like seeing as that's what I'd done in the past. So it was really good to sort of try and bring something that's not necessarily sort of that animation friendly, like that sort of art style to life using that sort of style software. So but I try to keep the actual art process though sort of as sort of like naturally as like oil painting as possible. So like I said, I wasn't using too many tools really or too many sort of brushes. I was just sticking with the oil paint brush and trying to blend it as I would have done when sort of using real paint and stuff. So yeah, it's sort of like I tried to keep it more like classical painting in that sense.
Yeah, well, it seems to have worked. As I said, it looks really distinctive. Like I can't really say, oh, this looks like such a game, because it just looks so different to anything else. And I think it looks really nice. I really like the backgrounds, in particular. That, as you mentioned, kind of like the oil. And then there's some paintings in the game in the pub now that I'm just going through the screenshots now. And I'm, oh yeah. Would you recommend? I know you had the experience, but if you're going to make another adventure game, would you do it the same, or was it very time consuming, or would you like to try a different way? How would you approach maybe if you do hopefully make more adventure games?
I mean, I really like sort of using the software that I was using, so I feel like I would go back to doing that style again. Sort of the especially sort of with the animation software that I was using as well, because it is pretty much like rigging up a 3D model in that way, so it saves quite a lot of time sort of rather than doing frame by frame animation, and helps keep it quite fluid and stuff. So I definitely would sort of continue to use like Spine and stuff for the animation, even if I did change like the art style, and if I wanted to try something slightly different sort of art style wise, I'd still feel like I'd use Spine for the animation, because that helps to kind of really speed up the process. But yeah, so with the art style, I'd like to, I feel like if I did more sort of Winklebottom games in future, because I would sort of like to expand on sort of the Winkleverse as such. I would keep the art style for that, because I feel like it's sort of distinctive Winklebottom style.
Yeah.
So I feel like it sort of depends on the style of game, I suppose, that you're going for. But I feel like with that kind of setting and that sort of classical kind of sort of, classic murder mystery stuff, and I was trying to get old style portraits in there and just kind of, more of like a classical look overall, I suppose, really. So yeah, I was trying to kind of I think I would keep that art style for more like Winkleverse style game.
I like the term Winkleverse.
Yeah, it's something where I've been talking about it to James and stuff, but I've never said it in public sort of before until like today, pretty much. So.
Oh, a scoop! The first time we hear it publicly.
So yeah, it's sort of the kind of the Winkleverse. It's like my kind of plan for.
Oh, very nice.
But I'll have to see how this one does.
Oh, well, hopefully it'll do well. But before we talk a little bit about the future, we spoke about the voice acting, and I wanted to ask about the music, because that's also it's really, really well done as well. That is not, it's not grating, doesn't feel repetitive, but it feels kind of like natural. It fits the scene. And I believe you mentioned on the Steam page that used live instruments. So how did you go about creating the music for this game? Did you work with any artist? Did you do it yourself, or how did you go about?
Definitely, I've done it myself with music. I'm definitely not a musician. I actually because I originally planned sort of for sort of composer to work on the game, and I actually met Gustavo through the Kickstarter. So he was actually a Kickstarter backer that was just really interested in doing music, and he's worked on a lot of games previously as well, and sent over sort of like his samples, and he was really sort of excited to try and do sort of a kind of like 1920s kind of vibe. And after listening to his work, I've just found it really great, and like felt like it could really suit the theme of the game. And he's actually based in Brazil, Gustavo, so it's all been like remote based in that way with regards to working with him for the music, and the live musicians. He's worked with those sort of locally, and also like some of his contacts that he's known. So they're sort of all sort of credited in the game. Sort of so there's a few. I can't remember exactly sort of like what instruments there were, but there's a few different sort of live instruments in there, and it sort of really helps bring it all to life. And so he's sort of responsible for all the audio mixing and everything, like everything sort of music based is all down to Gustavo. So sort of he's really sort of nice bloke to work with as well, and I think he's done like a really good job sort of on the soundtrack and trying to get that
definitely.
Sort of
and did you just tell him how you wanted the scene, or did you describe what the scene was and then let him at the music, or how did you guys work remotely?
Well, I actually like gave him sort of builds of the game as well throughout, so he's obviously encountered quite a few spoilers and stuff throughout. But so I gave him sort of builds throughout. So it's one of the things where I'd got in touch, obviously to begin with, sort of once he sort of got in touch with me about sort of expressing the interest in sort of working on the game. And it was one of the things where it took a little while, obviously, before I got to the point where I'd need sort of the music, because I sort of needed to kind of just concentrate on actually creating the game, making sure all the puzzles were sort of as I wanted them, all the areas were right. And then he started building on themes initially for the actual areas. So there's different areas around the island and different rooms, and he was sort of working on themes based on those, as well as sort of I gave him sort of ideas of what was going to happen sort of throughout the story. But he started off kind of working on themes for rooms and stuff like that in different island areas, and then sort of after having builds, once the game was more playable at that stage, he'd sort of gone in and played stuff and sort of blended stuff more, and also kind of like try to explore the story. So some of the elements kind of like some, as you progress through it, sort of the music sort of adapts and stuff throughout, and kind of gets slightly sort of darker in tone as well, and kind of like brings out the story more. So it's been great sort of working with him, and he's done all the sound effects as well. So he did a really, really good job at all of that.
Yeah, and also for the little bit I've played, he certainly has. That's great to hear. And do you know how long more or less it might take people to play, or what's the aim? And I know length isn't everything, it's porting is a good story, but do you know how long more or less it might take people, depending on how quickly people resolve some of the puzzles? But between what time, how
sort of with the kind of more like people that are more used to adventure games that I've sort of had play test, it's generally averaged around 6 hours or 6 to
okay, that's a good length.
So it is really hard to tell exactly, like, because some people took 8 hours, and then like some people like maybe 5.5 or something like that. So it's sort of, I'm saying sort of generally, I'm saying it's probably going to average around 6, like maybe like 8 max. So I'd have thought, but it really depends on kind of.
Of course, yeah.
Sort of
That's a good length. I mean, there were developers of another game that they said that it usually takes people around 10 hours to play their game. It took me about 18 hours.
Okay.
So, and I wasn't really stuck in any puzzles, but it was just the way things were. So it's it does depend. And
it may take a bit longer, but I didn't want to kind of promise a set amount of days.
Of course, yeah. But as you mentioned, it's hard to kind of tell, because it probably depends on the player. how long we take on the puzzles, and if we click on absolutely everything, if we go back, it really depends. But yeah, 6 hours I think is a good amount for an adventure game at least. But of course, the main thing is the story, the writing, which so far I'm really enjoying. Now, as I've mentioned as well, if anybody in the chat before we finish, if you have any questions at all for Charlotte, feel free to put it in the chat, and I'll be happy to ask. And I'm sure Charlotte will be happy to answer. We mentioned the Winkleverse, so I mean, I'm pretty confident the game will do well. I hope so, because people seem to be pretty excited. Do you have any ideas for any other settings, like, I don't know, Wigglebottom on the Nile or Wigglebottom on the Orient Express?
I do have sort of ideas, sort of, because I mean, originally, sort of the game, like, I don't know if you remembered, like, from like when I first announced it, I was originally going to have, like, as Lord Winklebottom Investigates, the case of the expired axolotl.
Yes.
And I shortened the title just because I thought it was a bit long. But I kind of had the idea of, like, potentially more cases and stuff that could pop up later on. But it's still like a standalone story, so it's not like it's like, right, here's part 2. So I wanted to make sure it's properly like a standalone story, rather than sort of kind of having the second half of the game released later and stuff. I didn't want to do it sort of episodic or anything. Right. So, but I've kind of got plans sort of that I could expand on, and also sort of elements that I would have liked to have been able to put into this one that I sort of would have run out of time to kind of put in, or just felt like, because I wanted to keep it sort of more manageable in a way, whereas there was a lot of other stuff as well that I'd have liked to have kind of added in, but I was also sort of trying to think like, maybe I should keep that section for the next game and stuff like that. So I kind of, it's something I definitely would like to go back to at some point.
Oh, well, I'm delighted to hear you are thinking of a next game.
It's that kind of thing where, I was just going to say, like, with the...
No, go ahead.
I might have a bit of a break from Winklebottom for a little while, just because I'd sort of been working on it, like, sort of part-time, really, across, like, 4 years. So have a little break from Winklebottom and then kind of, like, maybe go back, sort of,
Yeah, you deserve a small break. We'll give you a small break. Or do you have any plans with other characters or other stories, or... I don't know, probably too early to ask because you haven't released this game yet, but
I've kind of got like a bit of an idea for a next game, but it is like really, really early. Like,
right. So
no concept or anything. I'm just kind of looking to sort of start going back into like 3D for a little bit, maybe just to play around with like learning sort of 3D again, because I used to use sort of Maya for modeling and animation and stuff, but because it's not necessarily very indie friendly on the pricing front, I'm going to learn Blender. So I've started to dabble into like just playing around with a bit of Blender and sculpting and stuff. So that's something I sort of want to just explore a little bit more, maybe just to sort of have a look at first, and then think about sort of where it can go from there, maybe.
Cool. Yeah. One thing I love about the Poirot stories is when he was abroad, and I know he was a foreigner already in the UK. He's from Belgium, but I loved when Agatha Christie just put him in a foreign country, like the time Mesopotamia or anywhere. So I could definitely picture Lord Winklebottom in another foreign country. And Dr. Frumple with a cup of tea. So we shall see.
I like that sort of like exoticness to those ones, like sort of Death on the Nile and stuff like that. So really
definitely. Well, Tom Hardwich asked in the chat. Hello, Tom. And yes, we did speak about Lucy Dreaming. So looking forward to that as well. He asked, are you hoping to be at Adventure X in November?
I would like to sort of make it down. Yeah, sort of. I wasn't able to sort of the last event because I was ill then. But yeah, I'm hoping sort of everything sort of like COVID permitting and everything like that. Like, hopefully I can make it down.
Fingers crossed.
yeah. Sort of because I've only actually been to one so far, which was like the first one. Sort of. It was the one that I exhibited at in like 2018. Is it 20? Yeah, 2018.
Yes, 2018. I remember that. It was my first before I started this podcast, and I went there. We didn't get a chance to speak because I was only there one day. But I can't believe 2018 already.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, hopefully, I'll see you there in Adventure X. It would be great. First time in I think 2 years, COVID permitting. Let's hope that it can go ahead.
I was hoping to go to a lot of events and stuff really over the past couple of years, and then obviously nothing happened. So yeah, everybody was stuck indoors.
I know. Well, Kieran says I loved Lord Winklebottom at the last one that he went to. So so I think that's all the questions that I have. Hopefully we'll get to meet at Adventure X. Hopefully we'll continue. Hopefully we can both go on. So if you have any other questions in the chat, ask now before we finish. You were at was it Develop conference?
Oh yeah.
Last week.
Yeah, I was at Develop Brighton. So yeah, that was I was selected for like one of the finalists in the Indie Showcase.
Oh, congratulations!
Thanks. So yeah, I was really happy with that. Sort of, it was one of the 10 games that were selected. So
wow,
sort of exhibit at Develop, and yeah, it was the first time it developed for me as well. So it's sort of really exciting down there. It was just a bit too hot in there. With this weather. But yeah, it was really nice going, and sort of like, especially like a week before 2 weeks before the launch when it happened. So there's been a lot of stuff happening.
I can imagine. Well, look, I wish the very, very best of luck with the launch. I'm sure I'm pretty confident that it will do well and people will like it. I know people have been interested in for quite a while. I was meant to be working for 4 years, but I think this is one of the games that people have been most looking forward to. No pressure or anything, but I'm pretty confident that people will like it. So. And I'm looking forward to playing more of it and hearing and seeing what other people think as well, and finding out what else happens in the Winkleverse.
I'm looking forward to sharing it next week.
Yeah, no, I can't wait. Is there anything else that you would like to mention, Charlotte, before we finish up? Or again, anyone in the chat? Well, Tom Harder says, "Good luck. Can't wait to play the full game." And I'm sure it'll be similar with other people. Is there anything else you'd like to mention, Charlotte, before we finish?
Well, feel free to sort of share
share
as much as possible,
and wish list.
Well, yeah, it's up on the Nintendo store as well to wish list now.
Oh yes, I meant to ask, where can people? First of all, where can people buy the game, or where can people wish list? So where can everybody buy the game when it comes out?
It's on Steam. It's going to be it's Steam on PC, Mac, and Linux. And also Nintendo Switch, so that's up to wishlist at the moment. Also Xbox as well. So it's
cool.
It's not set up for pre-orders or anything though on there.
Right.
It was a bit more of sort of like involved to do that. So it's just the page is up though, and it will come to PlayStation, but later on. So I couldn't port all of them at once because I found it it's a bit hard juggling it all. So PlayStation later on, but Xbox, Switch, and PC sort of all on launch day.
Ooh, did you, when you were making the game, and when you realized it was going to be on Xbox and Switch, did that affect the development, the gameplay, or I don't know, anything in development of the game, or did you just develop it? Did you just continue?
I mean, I continue. I just kind of carried on like developing it like as if it was a PC initially, and then sort of kind of worried about the ports at the end. But luckily, nothing really went wrong with them. So it was sort of, it all kind of went okay. It's like just a few like little issues and stuff with like a few bits, but it was sort of, it all kind of worked out okay in the end. So I was really sort of happy with that, how it plays really nicely on the Switch actually, and it also plays really well on the Steam Deck.
Oh, lovely.
Because James has got a Steam Deck. It's not like a dev kit one, but it's I've tested it on there and it all plays really well. You can't get them verified on there yet though, because they're only doing it sort of certain developers at the moment. I think it's more of a kind of like sort of Valve kind of going through and working their way through different games and stuff, and different developers, different sizes and stuff. So yeah, it's not been able to be kind of verified for it, but it does actually work on it really well. So if
that's great to hear.
Steam Deck and stuff, feel free to play it on there too.
Cool. Well, Kieran said thank you for porting to Linux. Fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to it. As people can check it out at those places: Steam, Nintendo Switch, Xbox, and later on in PlayStation. So plenty of places you can buy the game. And as I said, I've really enjoyed what I've played of it so far. You're very kind to send me an early access for hot weather. Stopped me from playing anything.
Yeah, you don't really want to be at the PC, do you?
Yeah, no, more at the beach one time of the year in Ireland. But I will get back to it. The very, very best of luck with the launch. As I said, I am pretty confident everything will go well and it will do well and people will like it. Yeah, and I hope to see you and other people at Adventure X. So the very, very best of luck.
It'd be nice to see everybody there.
Yeah, it's nice to see people again after two. And so thank you so much, Charlotte, for joining me, and thank you everyone in the chat as well. And yeah, the very, very best of luck.
Thanks so much, and thanks for having me. Thanks.
So that was my interview with Charlotte Sutherland. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you can wish list and buy the game when it's available, if it's available now when you're listening or watching. And hope you enjoy the game as well. From what little I have played of the game, from the beginning at least, I am really, really enjoying it. So a full review will be up in probably next month's review episode. If hopefully I can get the game finished by then. But yeah, hopefully the game will do well and Charlotte can make more games in the Winklebottom or the Winkleverse, as she mentioned. I would be delighted, at least I'm sure many other people would as well. So yeah, so next week or 2 weeks, probably next week, hopefully, I'll be back with Laura and Thomas as we will be reviewing the latest adventure games that we have been playing. I'll be reviewing Intruder in Antiquonia and Suzerain. And Thomas and Laura will be talking about the adventure games they've been playing as well. So don't forget to, if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe and you get notified of any more videos. Again, if you're listening on the podcast, again, you can subscribe. Leaving a review always helps. It can be one line. The link is in the show notes as well. It really, really helps for visibility, and sharing this episode as well, sharing this link. It again really helps both us and the developers who come on the podcast as well, and the games that we talk about as well. So it'd be really, really helpful if you can help us. We also are on Patreon. If you would like to help us even further, you can. It's patreon.com /Adventure Games Podcast. And you get these episodes at least 24 hours early, plus a few extras, a few spoiler interviews with a few developers. So yeah. So thanks again for listening and or watching, and thank you for your help, everyone. And yeah, so I will see everyone next week. So take care. Goodbye.